keep their mic on, means mic off only. Om. 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 Om Sri Sairam. As we know, today we have Mr. Tribhuvan Sachdeva with us. He was born in 1961 in Indore. After completing his schooling from St. Paul's, Indore in 1979, he moved for higher education to Sri Satyasai University, Puttaparthi. In his student days, he actively participated in debates and dramas and was awarded a national prize in dramatics at New Delhi. He also represented his school and university in cricket and basketball. After completing his M.Com, Mr. Sachdeva was appointed as a lecturer of commerce in the same university where he taught for 2 years. Thereafter, he completed his LLB from DAVV Indore and then joined his father in running their tax law firm, which is one of the leading income tax consultants in Indore. Mr. Sachdeva also provides financial services to international organizations like Citibank, GE Capital, HSBC, Barclays, HDFC Bank, etc. He is presently serving as the Secretary of National Council of Sri Satya Sai Schools in India. He also actively engaged in Sri Satya Sai Seva organization and is involved in running of Sri Satya Sai Vidya Vihar, a renowned school of Central India and blood bank of Indore. He is well known for his oratory skills and delivers motivational and inspirational talks very effectively on every subject. I would like to invite you, sir, to address all of us today and share your experiences and guidelines given to you by Bhagawan, which will, of course, inspire us all. Saira. Sir.
Om Sri Sairam. Offering my most prayerful salutations at the lotus feet of our most beloved Lord, Bhagawan Sri Satya Sai Baba. Most respected All India President and my elder brother Nimish Bhai, Gopi Bhai, and my brothers and sisters of the leadership program who have chosen to join us this evening. This is the first time that I have this good fortune of addressing this elite group of youngsters who are going to be the future of our organization, or if I may add, the future of this country. Before we proceed, I would like to bring to your knowledge one or two small little things. Just before the program began, Sister Annapurna came on and she introduced everybody and she said that we must start this program with 3 Omkarams. What do these 3 Omkarams stand for? I remember that once when we were there in the Sanctum Sanctorums of Puttaparthi with Bhagawan, ensconced in a private discussion with him, as he would most of the times do with his loving students. So Swami asked how good it would be to talk to Bhagawan over the telephone. And all of us agreed that yes, Swami, it would indeed be a pleasure to be talking to you over the telephone. And then Swami said, do you know the telephone number of God? And we started looking at each other, not realizing what is the telephone number of God. And then Swami said, the telephone number of God is the 3 Omkarams. Whenever you chant the 3 Omkarams, you are getting connected directly with Bhagawan. And then he explained, when you dial the first Omkaram, Swami comes out and is ready to leave. When you dial the second Omkaram, Swami reaches the spot where you are there. And when you dial the third Omkaram, Swami says, I come and take my seat wherever you have invited me. So that is precisely why when we chant Omkaram thrice, we invite Bhagwan to come and be with all of us. So today, this evening, as we have started, we have invoked Bhagwan's blessings. We have invited him, who is very present with all of us here and is going to be there throughout this talk as we proceed ahead. So, Swami, welcome with all of us and bless all of us with your divine presence.
Sir Tribhuvan sir, can I request you to turn on your camera, please?
Okay.
You tell him it says video sharing disabled by administrator.
The video sharing is disabled by the administrator, it says.
It can't be because you have right. Annapurna,
no,
can you get the video on?
Sairam sir, no, it is enabled, sir. As you checked, it's the during the daytime. It's enabled. Kindly just switch it on while joining. Probably, you
My message coming here says video sharing is disabled by the administrator. Kindly check it from your end also.
let me check also, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
I'm requesting this because I'd like to see the facial expressions of Brother Tribhuvan when he's speaking, you know.
Sir, you can carry on. By that time, I'm seeing if it is some kind of admin control is there.
All right. So should I carry on?
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
please.
Okay. Thank you.
Disconnect again. Just ask him.
Would you want me to disconnect and reconnect again in case it helps?
Why don't you try it once, sir?
Okay, I'll try that once and come back again.
సౌండ్ రావట్లే నాని.
Facial expressions are very important.
Sairam sir,
Yeah, Sairam,
Actually, yes, Sairam.
shall I continue now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sir,
Okay, Sairam, thank you. The question is,
perfect.
who is a good leader? What makes you a leader? Swami has verily said often to us that a good follower becomes a good leader. That means, in case all of us aspire to be leaders of tomorrow, that means we have to necessarily be good followers today. And how do we become good followers? By just following the dictum laid out by Bhagawan for all of us. He has shown us the path. He has shown us the way. All we need to do is just follow his words, just follow whatever he has told us so that we become good and able leaders of tomorrow. And there's one more saying I'm reminded of, which says, readers are leaders. In case you aspire to be a leader, my small little recommendation to you would be you should become an avid reader. Because when you read, you get streams of knowledge, you get lots of stuff which otherwise wouldn't come to us. And that is the difference which it makes between an ordinary follower and a good leader. When we look at Bhagawan, a question comes to us. He was the perfect leader. He was everything for us, which we stood for. And in English, they say there is a saying that the first impression is a lasting impression. So, leave aside the divinity aspect of Bhagawan for a second. If we just look at Swami as a physical persona, if you look at him as a human being, what does appeal to us the most when we look at him? What are those traits of his physical aspects which appeal to us the most? Which Swami said, my life is my message. So what does he denote to us? He very categorically says, and it always appears to us, first part is cleanliness. Swami is always spick and span, if you can see. In all the videos, if those of us who have had an opportunity to have his darshans, we always find him that he's neat, clean, absolutely. And what does he do? He always comes out well dressed. He's always shaved. He's taken a proper shower. He exudes that beautiful divine smell wherever he goes. It's like a whiff of fresh air wherever he goes. What does it denote to all of us? That those of us who profess to be his followers, we have to be neat and clean. First in our appearance and then in our thoughts and words and deeds. So first, if we are clean in our appearances, we are neat and tidy, people would feel automatically attracted towards you because you are a person of that kind. And what is that one aspect of Swami's physical part which attracts everyone? We would all say love. But that love, how does he express that love through his physical charm? And that is his ever smiling face. And as Lord Bernard Shaw had once said, a smile is an inexpensive way to improve your looks. So those of us who feel you want to look attractive, who want people to come to you, smile and smile a lot, as Bhagawan would do. The moment he would smile to us, it would be an invitation for us to either talk to him, get drawn towards him. Similarly, if you want people to come to you, you want people to be near you, smile a lot. And as they say, a smile always improves your good looks. You've had a whole lot of people talking to you on leadership, and I'm not going to be delving in all those points, because if I start off tangent on those points, probably we would miss out on the aspects we are supposed to speak today. We are supposed to speak on our loving Sai and how through his closeness which he gave to his devotees, he changed lives, he changed people, he affected, he influenced, and he made all of us good followers and probably on our way to make us good leaders also. I was very fortunate to have joined Swami's institution way back in 1979 in Puttaparthi. Trust me, I was not a willing candidate to go and join Swami's college then. I'm being very honest about it. You know, it was not my wish that I go and join Swami's college. It was my parents who wanted that I should go and join Swami's college. And I was really scared that what would a youngster like me, who was just 16 or 17 years of age, go and do in a place which is full of spirituality. I was wisely made to understand by my parents that students there are made to wear white clothes. They're deep into spirituality. They get to understand about Indian culture. They get to understand about the modern knowledge also. But what is more, they are so humble, full of humility, full of everything which probably a youngster or a teenager of that age was. I used to, kind of believe only in jeans, jazz, and jazz, which was your philosophy of life. And thinking that probably this is the end all and be all of all activity for a youngster. All I desired was that my dad gets me a motorbike instead of a scooter, which he had bought for me in my class 11. And I would zoom around the whole town with my friends, go for movies, go for outings, and do this and that. And probably that's what I thought was the end of life. But then, with great persuasion, my father told me that if you don't like, you can come back, but give yourself one chance to go and be there. And I realized that if my parents are so keen that I go and join them, let me quietly go down and see. I promised all my friends that, look, I'm going to be back in a month or so, because I cannot stay in a place which is going to be so deeply spiritual and where the boys are made to sing bhajans and you're not supposed to go out for movies, no outings, no motorcycles, no friends, nothing. So I just told my friends that don't worry, I'm going to be back shortly. Little did I know what was there in fate for me. I went to Puttaparthi, I went to Bangalore. I did not get admission in Bangalore, but my younger brother did get admission in Bangalore. There's a lot of technicalities involved. I will not delve on those. I was advised by Professor Kasturi and Professor Narendra, who was then the principal of Brindavan College, to try my luck in Puttaparthi, suggesting that this was a new college which was opening up in 1979. And because there were some affiliation problems with the boards, so maybe I could get admission there. We came back from Bangalore to Puttaparthi, and again, with great difficulty, I had to wait there in the wings for almost 1 month. And with great difficulty, I got admitted into the hallowed portals of Prashanti Nilayam. But that 1 month of stay, which I spent there aspiring to be a student there in Swami's college, it changed my total being. From my side of not wanting to sing bhajans, not wanting to sit quietly, not wanting to wear simple clothes, I suddenly found myself running behind Swami's car, wanting to talk to him, wanting to look at him, and wanting that he looks at me, he talks to me, and all those things which would probably happen to a youngster of my age. And as luck would have it, I walked in after great difficulty. But then, after the admission process was on, Swami came and blessed all the children. He spoke to me once or twice. And after that, Swami left for Brindavan. Because those were the days Swami would spend lots of time in Brindavan and less time in Puttaparthi. But then, before leaving for Brindavan, Swami promised, now I've got 2 colleges, so I'm going to spend 1 month in Brindavan and 1 month in Puttaparthi. So don't worry, you children settle down, and I will be back in a jiffy. And you study hard, Swami would say in Telugu, Baga Chaduko, and then he would bless all of us, and then he left. And soon after Swami left, we suddenly realized there's a vacuum in our lives. But then all our teachers, all our wardens, all our professors who were there in the hostel, they buoyed us all up, and they filled our days with activity, games, sports, elocution contests, dramatics, this, that. And suddenly we found ourselves getting into the groove and craving more and more for Swami. Suddenly a message came from Brindavan that this year for Dashera festival, the Brindavan boys are not going to put up either a play or anything. This time the privilege is for the Puttaparthi young boys to put up a play. And Swami had suggested that this year's play be made on the life and teachings of Ramakrishna Paramhams. So then started now the search for Ramakrishna Paramhamsa. And I thought that with my kind of acting abilities, I might definitely land up with some main role, if not the role of Ramakrishna Paramhamsa. And the auditions began. Lots of my friends, my brothers, everyone who was there, they were first looking for Vivekananda and Ramakrishna Paramhamsa. Now, some of them who were chosen for Ramakrishna Paramhamsa, they were very well built and probably not suiting. And then I realized that maybe I should explain to them that I have had some awards under my belt and maybe I could be, kind of considered for this play. So I walked in and very innocently went and spoke to my warden and I said, sir, I don't mind whatever role you give me. Would you like to take on my audition? So my warden, who was himself a dramatic, who was a very good dramatist, who was from Delhi, he told me, have you done any such play? And very innocently, I said, yes, sir. I had done a play on the life and teaching, on the life of Samrat Ashoka. He said, okay, can you do something? So there was a soliloquy in that play, wherein after the war of Kalinga, Samrat Ashok, who's full of grief on the action he has done by killing so many people, he talks to himself. So that dialogue was spoken by me in front of them. And I could literally see the jaws of all my teachers and wardens drop onto the floor. And they realized that we have got our Ramakrishna Paramhams. I was a lean and thin guy. Maybe the looks were very suiting. I was dark in complexion. If put on with a beard and maybe a little losing hairline, which I have now, then it was not so. Maybe I could suit into the bill. And very excitedly, they said, okay, Tribhuvan, you are on. You are the Ramakrishna Paramhamsa for us. Now you take on this book, start reading what Ramakrishna was, and you do it. And I was an overconfident rustic kind of a character. And I said, what is there? I've done so many dramas in my school days. This Ramakrishna Paramhamsa seems to be like a cakewalk to me. So I said, okay, sir, if you have chosen to give me this great role, I will do this role of Ramakrishna Paramhamsa, and I will do it to the best of my ability. Now I started reading that book, so that first I was given the script which was ready, and I started reading my role, and I realized the role did not involve too much of emoting, too much of drama, too much of soliloquies or situations wherein I could show my dramatic skills. But then I said, okay, let me try and see whatever best I can do. In the meantime, as good luck would have it, Swami was back. And no sooner did Swami come back, Swami called up my teacher, who was the director of the play, and the professor, and asked him in Hindi, because he was from Delhi. He said, "हाँ, वो तुमने drama final कर लिया?" And he said, "Yes, Swami, हो गया." He said, "तुमने Ramakrishna Paramhams किसको बनाया?" So he looked at me and pointed towards me, and I got up on my knees with my hands folded. And Swami looked at me and spoke something in Telugu. And I couldn't understand what it was. So soon as Swami went inside the interview room, I asked my friend who was sitting next to me, and I said, "What did Swami say about me?" He was pointing something towards me, and he spoke something in Telugu which I couldn't understand. So my friend, who told me, he was from Hyderabad, he told me, "Swami said that you have chosen the right character for Ramakrishna Paramhamsa. So go ahead and start with the practice." Bhagawan telling me that the right character for Ramakrishna Paramhamsa. My ego flew down to the 9th floor straight away. God is telling you that you are the right person to do Ramakrishna's role. Now nothing can stop me. Now the practice sessions began. And I realized that I was out of depth. Everyone kept on praising that you're doing very well. But I knew within my heart of hearts that I was not doing a good job. I was really not what I wanted to do. Because here was a person who was a God-realized soul. Yet he had a childlike innocence. Now, how do you portray a character who's like God, who's realized God, but he's childlike innocent? Now, I was trying my level best, and I couldn't portray that character the way I had imagined I would be able to do. And I realized I found myself falling down on my knees, praying to Swami, asking for help, that Swami, you have to guide me. I don't want to let you down. You have praised me, but I'm not able to do it to the best of my ability. And you have told that from today evening, you're going to come personally to view this drama in the Purnachandra auditorium, in the green room behind there. So Swami, please help me and help me, God. I prayed and prayed. No sooner did we go in the evening, Swami called us very lovingly, made us all sit down around him, offered us those lollies which were there in the Kerala stores, made us all very comfortable. He cut the lollies with his own hands with a scissor, and he asked us to eat those ice cream-like lollies. And I can't describe the joy of Swami in his eyes, which was there, that he was seeing that in that heat of Puttaparthi, we were enjoying those lollies in his presence. And then Swami brought out with a book on the life of Ramakrishna. I think probably it was by Christopher Isherwood, if I'm right. And Swami said, you don't need to go to this college. Lock yourself into a room. Don't talk to the children too much. Keep alone, meditate, and think about Ramakrishna. And in your free time, read this book. Now, this was the tip, which was probably, the style of method acting which these actors do today. But Swami, being the master of method acting, which he was, he told me, go into solitude. Think about Ramakrishna Paramhamsa. Read his book. Learn by the character and meditate. And I would do all what Swami told. And suddenly, I found my confidence coming back. And every practice session which would happen, I would see Swami full of glee, Swami full of joy, Swami full of pleasure for the character who was playing the role of Ramakrishna Paramhamsa. Then I met a stone wall. One day, a very interesting, why I gave you this background is to get you to the crux of the whole episode. There was one event in the life of Ramakrishna Paramhamsa, wherein the Gospel of Ramakrishna says that came a time in the life of Ramakrishna Paramhamsa that when he would treat himself, a man of 60, 65 years of age, as a small little child. and he would cry in front of mother and plead like a child and cry out that, "Mother, reveal yourself to me. Why are you not revealing yourself to me?" And he would probably, on the floor, go around, tumbling around and pray and request to mother to reveal herself. And then mother would come just like she would do to a small little child. And like a small child, Ramakrishna would respond. Then there was a story that one time there came a time in Ramakrishna's life when he started thinking and imagining himself to be Lord Hanumana. And he looked at Ma Kali as Lord Rama. And all the traits of the monkey god came into him. Whenever he would talk, he would jump around like a monkey, and he was full of energy like Lord Hanuman would be. And everywhere, wherever he would look, he would find Lord Rama everywhere. And the third aspect of his devotion was that he went into the Radha Bhakti Bhav. And at one stage, he started behaving like a young married woman. He started looking himself as Radha. And in that glee, he would pray to Mother Kali as Lord Krishna. And Ma would reveal herself to Ramakrishna in these three forms. First as a child, then as Hanuman, and then as Radha. Now, it was decided that this role be done through a song. And there was a song by M.S. Subbulakshmi which Swami used to love so much. Pyare darshan dijo, tum bin rayo na jaye. Haan, pyare darshan dijo, tum bin rayo na jaye. Now, this is the beautiful song sung by M.S. Subbulakshmi's voice. And I was supposed to come and emote on the stage, first as a child, then as Lord Hanuman, and then probably as the lights would switch and the music would play, I would come in a ghagra choli with a chunni on my head and enact the role of Radha Bhakti. Now, before the practice sessions began, I realized when I acted like a child, it went off very well. When I acted like Hanuman, it was accepted by all. But the moment it came to Radha Bhakti and I had to enact the role of a woman full of love of Krishna, I heard giggling sounds from my friends, and even my warden and the director would put his neck down to hide their smiles because I suddenly realized something was not right. I looked at him questioningly and he told that you need to work up a little more on your steps of how a lady walks in, how she pleads to Lord Krishna. So I did it again, and there was a bigger laughter this time. And I got a little cheesed off, and I looked at my director a little angrily, and I told him, "So why don't you do it and tell me how a woman does? I'm born as a man, and I don't know. I've never had any training. How do I enact a role of a woman?" Then he said, "No, Tribhuvan, you're doing just fine. Just pray to Swami and do well before him this evening when you go." Now, praying to Swami, we went this evening, and in the background, the beautiful voice of M.S. Subbulakshmi started. I walked in like a child, and I pleaded to Mother. Then I came in like Hanumanji, and I prayed to Lord Rama. And when it came to me as coming as Radha, and I walked in, so probably the way the gait which was there was not womanly enough. I did not know how to raise my fingers to show my eyes. I did not know how to do anything. So Swami said, नहीं ऐसा नहीं, तुम लोग थोड़ा इमोशन डालो, जैसा लेडीज लोग करता ना, लेडीज पे बहुत ज्यादा भाव होता, तुम भाव लाओ, लेडीज का भाव लाओ. Then Swami told me again, okay, play the Radha role. Now again the Radha role started. I came in like Radha who's longing for Krishna's love. I took a round, and there were giggles galore with Kasturiji also sitting there on Swami's feet and giggling a little bit. And even Swami had a difficult time hiding his giggles, though he would wipe his mouth with the handkerchief so that I don't feel discouraged. And he said, no, Ramakrishna, try again. In those days, I remember, and period after that, my name was not Tribhuvan, it was Ramakrishna for all purposes. Swami would call me Ramakrishna. Then third time he told me, no, concentrate. Look at how a lady would enact. Do it that way. I tried my level best, but trust me, I was nowhere near Swami's expectations or my director's expectation, or for that matter, my own expectations. Then fourth time again I did, and suddenly exasperated, Swami got up from the chair. Swami said, no, it is not done like this. I will show you. And then Swami came down, daintily putting one foot, then second foot, and then he did his hands like this across him. Then he pointed towards his eyes, so daintily, so beautifully, like a dancer would do. And Swami took 2 or 3 steps, took a whole round, and all of us realized collectively our jaws dropped on the floor, looking at Swami do it so beautifully. I'm telling you, when I close my eyes now, I can still imagine Swami showing me how Radha would have prayed to Lord Krishna. And suddenly we realized that Swami had done it, and Swami felt so shy. He hid his face with a handkerchief and started laughing and giggling like a small child. And all of us were clapping like small children around. And Swami was giggling and, hiding his face. And he said, no, don't do this. And, he was feeling embarrassed that he could do it so well and none of us could do. And suddenly we looked at Kasturi, and Professor Kasturi, I call him the blissful devotee. His eyes were watering. He was crying. And Swami said, what happened to you? Then he said, Swami, if you pardon me today, I wish to make a confession before you. And he said, yes, tell me, what is it? Tell the boys. He said, Swami, I wrote Satyam Shivam Sundaram as you told me. You told that in your childhood, you did that role of Rishendra Mani when in Bukkapatnam, the dancer who had come from Chennai had fallen sick and she could not dance, and how the villagers came to you and they requested you to bail them out, and you so graciously agreed after your school hours, and then you danced like Rishendra Mani, and nobody could make out, including the collector who was the Englishman, that you were not Rishendra Mani and you were Balak Satya then. And Swami, now I know, seeing this beautiful gait of yours, the way Radha would have prayed, Swami, and then he started crying. And all of us had tears in our eyes because we realized that history was being made in front of our eyes. And then Swami was continuously feeling very shy, and he was hiding his face like a small little child with a handkerchief around. And then he said, to hide his embarrassment that he had done it so spontaneously, whereas we could not do it, he told Kasturi Garu, he said, tell them the story of Rishendra Mani. And he asked some of us, do you know the story of Rishendra Mani? Some of us wisely shook our heads, no, Swami, we don't know. And then he said, okay, tell. And then Professor Kasturi went on to give us this beautiful story of Rishendra Mani and how Swami saved the villagers that day in Bukkapatnam. Those of you who do not know the story of Rishendra Mani, I'm sure most of you would have known. As I said, readers are leaders. Go through Satyam Shivam Sundaram, and the beautiful description has been given in that. So this is one little small episode wherein we realized the kind of love Swami would shower on all of us. Just imagine that I realized that there were tens and thousands of devotees waiting outside for Swami's one glimpse. And Swami would happily spend 1.5 hours, 2 hours closeted with all of us in the green room, guiding us, directing us, telling us how Ramakrishna would do. There is a particular picture of Ramakrishna when he's in a bliss, he raises his hands like this and he stands. And Swami said, no, this is not the way he would stand. Stand like this. A different pose Swami gave. And I did that and Swami felt happy. So I said, there is no question of asking Bhagawan why you should be doing it, because when God tells you, you just follow. Swami's love is endless, I tell you. Even after more than 40 years have passed, 41 years to be precise, I get goosebumps when I think of this beautiful story. I'm reminded of one more very beautiful story which I would like to share with all of you here. Those were those days of early 70s when Swami was more accessible to all his devotees. And in those days, there were not many trains, there were no flights. In fact, the only way to come to Puttaparthi was that you had to come to Penukonda by train, then from Penukonda come to Bukkapatnam, from Bukkapatnam get into a bullock cart and then cross Chitravati river and then reach Puttaparthi. Slowly things improved, a road was made, but yet still it was not possible for all the people to come there. So in those days, Swami would invariably take a car and go and visit all his devotees in various parts of the countries. He would be a very, very regular visitor in Chennai, in Bangalore, in various towns of Andhra Pradesh, be it Hyderabad, Rajamundry, Guntur, and all these places that he would go. And there are so many stories, but there is one particular story of Swami's pure, unsullied love, which I have not read anywhere, but which was narrated to me by my own warden, who probably was a student then, and Swami had informed them about this event, and they were probably aware when Radha Reddy Garu was Swami's driver. Very, very early in 70s, must be 71 or 72, it so happened. There was one old time devotee of Swami who had constructed a beautiful new bungalow. And it was his wish and desire in Andhra that anytime Swami would cross the city to go to Hyderabad or any other place, Swami should come to his house and bless his new house and probably, bless his mandir and everything. And, just the fact, the thought that Swami walking into your house probably, it charges you up so much. So here was this friend of ours who prayed and prayed to Swami and wished that Swami would give him permission and give him benediction of his visit. And Swami very lovingly told that on such and such day, as I cross your town, I will come down for about half an hour to your house, bless your house, you have your bhajans, after which I'll have food with you. They prayed to Swami to have food, and then I will leave for the next visit to whichever town Swami was going. Now, the whole town was charged, his house was charged up, and this man, this devotee, who was an old-time devotee, a young man, he had a small little child of about 7 or 8 years of age. Those were the days, if you wanted to give a toy car to a child to roam around within the home, there was a car, which was a small little car, which had paddles in it. You could paddle through your legs and the car would go around the whole bungalow, the empty spaces. Some of you who know in the 70s, these kind of cars were available. There was no battery operated car. There were no automatic cars. There were no diesel or petrol cars for children. But there were these paddle cars which were there that you could sit and get the joy of driving the car, a small little car where only a child could probably fit in. So this child, who's the hero of our story, he was fond of cars a lot. And this red color car, he would go zoom, driving everywhere inside the house, from drawing room to bedroom, from there and there. And people would tell him that, be careful, don't drive this car, Swami's about to come. So he went and parked the car and waited in his room. Then the host who took Swami around first, Swami came in. Swami was greeted amongst all other people there who were there. Swami went inside the drawing room. Swami blessed the puja room. Swami came to the dining room. Then this child innocently came out and caught hold of Swami's finger, index finger. And he said, Swami, come, I want to show you my room also. Swami was quite amazed at the confidence of the small little child who could hold Swami's finger and lead him to his room. Swami said, yes, I must see your room. And then they took him to his room, which was a colorful little small room, which had a small cot. And he said, Swami, this is my room. And this is my cot where I sleep. This is my small little cupboard where I put my clothes. And Swami, this colorful door which you see, no, this is leading to my bathroom. And my bathroom tiles are also colored. The way he was, jabbering on with Swami. And Swami was so happily enjoying his conversation as if two children, two friends have met together. Then he said, Swami, before you go, I want to relate to you a story. Now, Swami was surprised. A child going to relate a story to Swami? So he said, Swami, I want to tell you a story. Swami was very amused. He said, Swami said, where should I sit? He brought his car, which was there, and he said, Swami, you sit on my car. Now, Swami knew that he cannot possibly fit into the seat. So Swami said, I cannot fit into your car. He said, no, Swami, you sit on the bonnet of the car. So just imagine what all Swami does for the devotees. He sat on the bonnet of his small little car, and I'm sure Swami must have been balancing so that the car doesn't fall down, or probably the child doesn't feel that Swami is uncomfortable. Now, this child must have heard the story of Gajendra Moksha. Now, he related the story of Gajendra Moksha to Swami in his own way. I'll quickly run through the story of Gajendra Moksha to some of our youngsters who may probably be confused what the story is all about. They say in our Puranas, there's a story that there was a big elephant by name Gajendra. And Gajendra was an ardent devotee of Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu had asked him that he should be careful when he goes out and splashes himself into the river while taking bath. So one day, while Gajendra goes inside the river and he's splashing water all around him like elephants are prone to do, there is a wicked crocodile which comes and grabs his leg. And the crocodile is so strong in water that however hard Gajendra tries, he is not able to extricate his leg out of the water. As a last resort, he prays to Lord Vishnu, and he prays that, "Oh Lord, oh my Savior, please come and save me, because this crocodile is going to get me into the water, into the samsara, and I'm going to get drowned. So Lord, only you are my Savior, so please come and save me." And immediately, Lord Vishnu, who's sitting on his Sheshasaya with Ma Lakshmi, he gets up, calls for his vehicle, which is Garuda, and sits down on Garuda with the Sudarshan Chakra in his hands, and he goes down flying like a jet to the riverfront where the Gajendra is shouting and praying for help. And the Lord Vishnu, out of his grace and mercy, with one stroke of his Sudarshan Chakra, cuts off the head of the wicked crocodile, and he ensures that Gajendra gets free from that foundation of drowning into this water, what we call samsara. This was the story all of us, I'm sure, have heard. Now, this child related the story in a most beautiful fashion to Swami. He said, "Swami, you know you have that beautiful elephant named Sai Gita?" Swami said, "Yes, I know." "Swami, she's a very naughty girl. You should take care of her." Swami said, "Really?" He said, "Yes, Swami. You know, when you are going inside, sleeping after giving interviews, Sai Gita quietly slips out of the shed. And then from her shed, she makes way to Chitravati. And you know, Swami, like all other elephants, she loves to take bath in the water. And while you are sleeping and taking rest in Puttaparthi inside your room, she goes and takes bath and she splashes and she swims in the river." So one day, Swami, what happened? You had told her not to go, but then it was very hot, Swami, Papam, it was very hot in Puttaparthi, and she quietly moved out of her shed, and before anybody could see, she slipped out, and she went and she started taking a shower inside the Chitravati river. The river was flowing very fast that day because it was a rainy season. There were rains then, and the river was flowing very hard. And suddenly, a villainish crocodile came and it caught hold of Sai Gita's leg. Now, Sai Gita tried its level best with all its strength, with all its might to extricate itself from Swami. But Swami, she could not get out of the clutches of that wild and that crocodile. So what did she do, Swami? She started praying and she started shouting for help. Sairam, Sairam, Sairam. And suddenly, Swami, by which time had already gotten up and he was sitting in the outside veranda, going through all the letters which the devotees had given to him, he heard the voice of Sai Gita crying for help. He immediately asked for Radha Reddy. He said, "Radha Reddy, get my car out." And immediately Radha Reddy went running down. He got Swami's car out. And then Swami went downstairs, and on the wall, there was a gun hanging there. And Swami took that gun out in his hands and he said, "Radha Reddy, go fast to Chitravati river. Sai Gita is in great trouble. We need to save her." And on a breakneck speed, Radha Reddy drove the car. And as they reached there, Swami got out of the car, took an aim and told Sai Gita, "Sai Gita, don't worry, you stand still." He took an aim and he shot at the crocodile. And the crocodile died, Swami. And Sai Gita was released. And she came and she fell down at your feet and she wept and wept and wept and said, "Swami, thank you so much for saving me. I promise I'm going to be a good girl from now onwards. I will listen to all what you said and I will never, never go out unasked or go out without your permission." And Swami blessed her and blessed her. Now, as this child finished the story, you can imagine Swami literally caught hold of his tummy and he fell down on the floor laughing at the child's imagination. How the child, who must have heard the story of Gajendra Moksha, how he imagined how Swami would probably save Sai Gita, and Swami was so enamored by his story. Swami hugged him, Swami kissed him, Swami blessed him. And as it would be a God would do when gods are very happy, Swami asked him, Ask for anything today which you want and it shall be given to you. But the child looked with mysterious eyes on Swami and he said, Swami, anything? You promise? Swami said, I will give you anything today. You ask for it. Then he said, Swami, I am fond of cars. So that new Impala car which is standing outside, please give that car to me. And Swami, as God would do, he said, Tathastu. He called Raja Reddy and he said, get the car keys. And he handed over the car keys to the child and he told Raja Reddy Garu to take the child for a drive in that car and ensure that the car was parked in the garage of that devotee. Such is the love of Bhagawan. His love knows no bounds. All he needs is purity. With purity, if you ask him anything, the child probably was with his little understanding or whatever he had, he asked for a car. I'm sure if Swami is to come to us and ask for us these trinkets, would we ask for a car? Ask and question and probably cross your heart and ask. So I'll go a little off tangent, since we are talking about what we should be praying. Swami would often, tell us about what we should be praying and what we should not be. So I'm reminded of, again, a very personal incident which I would like to share here. I'm sure some of you must have heard it. I had an opportunity to speak about it once or twice before also. But since it's a message for the humanity, I thought it'll be a very apt thing. When I was a young boy, first year into Puttaparthi, after the evening bhajans would get over, that time there was the Sai Kulwant Hall was not there. There was this beautiful spread of sand everywhere, coconut palms everywhere, and you could see open spaces. And there was a neem tree, a couple of them, where the darshan people would sit. And after the bhajans would get over, there used to be a meditation session in the bhajan hall. So after the bhajan would get over, being one of the small little bhajan singers, I would wait and go inside the bhajan hall for meditation purposes. And after meditation, I would come out and there was a Dashavtar gate where the main gate is there right now in the Sai Kulwant Hall, from where Swami's car leaves. There was a Dashavtar gate. We call it a Dashavtar gate because on the gate, the statues of Dashavtar were made. And opposite the Dashavtar gate, there was a beautiful small little marble statue of Lord Ganesha with a red background and a marble statue. And I would invariably go and pray to the statue of Lord Ganesha. I would first go, touch his feet, press his feet as if the statue is live. And then I would say, Lord, please bless me with Vidya and Sadbuddhi. And I thought, I must not ask anything worldly. Why Vidya? I said, I must ask for Vidya because Bhagavan has said knowledge is that ornament which no thief can take away. And if you have Vidya throughout your life, you will be respected by everyone. So I asked for Vidya. And then Sadbuddhi. Why did I ask for Sadbuddhi? Because if you have Sadbuddhi, then you will walk the right path. If you walk the right path, Swami will bless you. And if you have Sadbuddhi, you will be doing all things right. That means power of discrimination will be used by you. So for months together, at least for 2.5 months, I kept on this routine every evening after the meditation session. I would go down, bow down at the feet of Lord Ganesha and say, Lord Ganesha, I pray for Vidya and Sadbuddhi to you. Now, I would pray to Lord Ganesha and I would imagine Lord Ganesha only with my closed eyes also. I would not even think of Swami then. Then one day, I think Swami must have, whose room was just above the statue there, unke bhi kaan pak gaye honge sun ke. So one day he decided to call all of us for a small little interview into a hostel. That time we were staying in the old hostel. And he said, I would like to talk to these boys and give a discourse. And that day's main discourse was on prayers, the power of prayers. And then Swami said, all the people who come to me, they come to me with only one prayer in their hearts. They want something in their lives. Some people want money. Some people want power. Some people want position. Some people want a child. Some people want to get married. Some people want their daughter to get married. Some people want all kinds of things, from Swami. And nobody really comes and asks for things which Swami wants to give. But everybody is asking for worldly things from me. And then I was sitting right in the front, and Swami looked straight at me, and he said, pointed towards me and said, but there are some devotees who don't ask me for Naam, Izzat, Shohrat, Paisa, Daulat, Dhan. They asked me for Vidya and Sadbuddhi. And he looked straight at me and he said, Nahi. And I looked at it and folded my palms and I said, yes, Swami, I pray only for Vidya and Sadbuddhi. Then he said, why do you pray for name, fame, power, money, position? Why even Vidya and Sadbuddhi? Do you know when an avatar comes, what you must pray to the avatar? Now we knew the Swami is going to reveal to us something great. So all of us inched forward towards Swami and we surrounded Swami. Somebody was touching Swami's feet. Somebody was touching his hand. Somebody was touching his robe. And Swami was looking at me and all other boys very lovingly. And he said, why do you ask for these worldly trinkets for me? In your prayers, ask for me and me alone. Ask for God and God alone. When you ask for God, you have Dhan, Daulat, Vidya, Sadbuddhi, name, fame, position, power, everything you get, because everything is in the hands of God. So if you ask for name, you will get name. If you ask for fame, you will get fame. If you ask for power, you will get only power. You ask for money, you will get only money. But if you ask for God and God alone, trust me, everything is in my hand and I will give you everything. What a beautiful message. And my dear brothers and sisters, from that day, it has been my humble effort never to ask Swami for any worldly things in our lives. I've always asked for him and him alone. And I realize now, after having spent almost 30 to 33 years, 32 years as a professional now, that when I was a young boy who had just entered into this profession as a tax lawyer, I had great expectations of life. I had imagined that I will have this, I will have that, I will procure this, I will do this, I will do that. But nothing matches what I have today. Whatever I had imagined pales into submission here before what Swami had given. Because he wants to give you the world. You, in your imagination, with your limited understanding, will only ask for a car or the keys of the car, or you'll ask him for worldly trinkets. You will ask him for name. You will ask him for fame. You will ask him for money. But then if you ask him for him and him alone, Swami says, I give everything to that person. I give him name, I give him fame, I give him power, I give him vidya, I give him sadbuddhi, and more than anything else, I give him myself. Dear brothers and sisters, I feel this is the greatest message Swami has given to all of us. We all pray to Bhagawan, but then we always are praying for those small trinkets. He says, leave those trinkets aside, grow up, ask for me. I am the Lord of this universe. I will give you all what your heart desires. You know, when we were students, there used to be many such episodes, many such happenings, which have left a very, very strong impact on our minds. You know, those young minds. I'm trying to keep this talk as light as possible without too much philosophy. Just the underlying message is understood by all of you after the episode was over, how Swami would probably relate to all of us. You know, when we were studying in Swami's college, even now, there's a record that all the students passed there with first classes, all 100% first classes. And now the record is all 100% distinctions. In our times, 100% results used to come, all 100% first classes. Any child who would get a second division, Swami would probably not get upset with him, but then Swami would want that he should also do well in academics, because Swami is perfection personified. Swami would want that you must be perfect in everything which you do, be it seva, be it bhakti, be it devotion, be it studies, be it games, be it sports, any aspect of your life, you should be nothing less than the capital P for perfection. So that is how Swami used to be. But then there were times that not all of us, I remember so many of my classmates, when they came, all they could speak was just Telugu or maybe just Hindi, and they could not speak in English. And today they are PhDs, they are doctorates, and they are teachers in the university. And what fluent English they speak, what fluent language, what control they have. Some of them who have passed out, who have done PhD from here, I know in front of me that they could hardly speak a single word of English. Now they're running their colleges, schools, whatnot. And they, this is what divinity does to you. And I'm reminded of that just one saying that, Lord, you have touched me and I have grown. This is the fact of all our lives, that he touches us and he makes us grow into a beautiful flower into his garden. That is what is the greatness of this avatar. So I'm reminded of a particular beautiful episode. Some of our senior boys had gone down to Vrindavan in the March end for some work. And Swami was, in those days in the old bungalow, which Swami used to sit. At that time, Trai had really not come up. It was that old bungalow where you could have window darshans also. And boys used to vie to go there and sit in Swami's, literally all around Swami. So one day, Swami would invariably, ask one of the boys to give an impromptu talk. Then the visitors who would be there, sometimes it would be Sunil Gavaskar, sometimes it would be Shiv Kumarji Sharma, or there could be any other big dignitary. There could be some chief minister or governor, or probably some IS officer who would be there. Swami would ask them all to speak, and those people would come and give their benediction, speak some words of wisdom. And why Swami would make them talk to us, so that we could understand how to be worldly wise also. These people were full of wisdom, and Swami would take a chance and ask them to speak to us. And after that, Swami would give an impromptu discourse full of his love. So one such day, when all the sessions were over, bhajans were over, and suddenly Swami was talking to everybody, and impromptu Swami would ask a question and give on a discourse. Then one day Swami said, "Are you all studying well?" And there was a collective resounding voice coming from the group. "Yes, Swami, all of us are doing very well. We are studying well." He asked the warden, "Are the boys studying well for their exams?" And all of us shook our heads and said, "Yes, Swami, we all are doing very well." Then Swami asked, "Will you all get first classes?" We all raised our hands and said, "Yes, Swami, we are all going to get first classes." Swami said, "Very happy, very happy." Then Swami asked a very strange question. Swami said, "How many of you are weak in your studies?" Swami repeated the question because nobody came forward. Swami said, "How many of you are weak in your studies?" Now, everyone started looking at each other. I looked at a few other boys, a few other boys looked at me, and all of us knew that we were doing pretty good and we were all excellent students. Nobody, and there were some students who were really not doing very well. But then how do you confess in public that you are weak in studies, and then you would probably be, you will be censured by everyone, and Swami would probably give you a piece of his mind. Nobody had the courage to open up. So there was this one small little boy who had joined in the first year, and that very year, he was sitting behind, and with great courage, he softly raised his hand, hiding behind somebody, so that, he raises his hand also, and so that he's not telling a lie, but Swami also doesn't get to see. But Swami, the loving God which he is, he looked at that boy and asked him to get up. Now, to much embarrassment, the small little boy got up with almost tears in his eyes. And when Swami asked him, "Are you weak in your studies?" And then he said, "Swami, when I came after my 12th, I had got 80%. But, I am reminded of my mother and my home. This is the first time I have left. I'm not able to concentrate." And then Swami looked at him with 100 mothers' love. And Swami said, "Don't worry, my child. You concentrate. You work hard. And I bless you that you will get a first division in this year. Don't worry. But first, work hard. And I bless you." And Swami raised Abhay Hasta and blessed him profusely. And that boy had tears in his eyes, and with his hands folded, he was standing in front of his eyes. And suddenly, out of love, Swami waved his hand, and there was a beautiful golden pen in Swami's hands. And Swami called that boy and planted that golden pen into his front pocket. And Swami said very softly to him, as if telling a secret, "Go and write your examination with this divine pen, but work hard, and I bless you, you will be getting a first division. Now the child felt so elated, he fell down at Swami's feet, he kissed Swami's feet with tears flowing of gratitude in his eyes, and he touched Swami, and Swami blessed him profusely. Then he went and sat back in his place. And it was all over. Next day, again, the same kind of a thing happened. Bhajans, followed by a talk by some devotee, and Swami is impromptu speaking. And suddenly, while talking in between, Swami looked around, and with a mischievous Krishna-like smile on his face, he asked, "How many of you are weak in your studies?" Now, this time, lot many boys raised their hands full-fledged, and Swami, we are weak in studies. And Swami laughingly tottled off his tummy, laughingly said, "Hey, put your hands down. I know all of you are wanting a golden pen, but Odura, I'm not going to give you a golden pen." And Swami laughed, and so did all of us. And as luck would have it, that boy worked hard when Swami told him, and he managed to get a first class first. Imagine a guy who was barely getting passing marks was getting a first class first in his class. This is the love of Swami. This is how he teaches a lesson through love. Every time all of us are there. We find lots of these big people come to Swami time and again when they are getting Swami's blessings, Swami's nearness. But I am reminded of a very touching episode which happened when I was a student in Swami's college. Probably I was in my first year MCom or so. It happened. The festival of Dashera was going on in Puttaparthi. And by the way, I had spent 9 years all in Puttaparthi, first 7 years, 8 years, first 6 years as a student, and then 2 years as as a lecturer in Swami's college. So all through I had been in Puttaparthi. So one Dashera, we realized that the ceremony was in full stream ahead. Lots of people, thousands and thousands were pouring in. The Ved Saptaha Yagnam was coming towards an end. It was the 10th day of Purna Huti. And suddenly we saw at that time the head of the ashram was one Mr. Kutumrao Garu, a very committed and a devoted person. We saw him escorting an old man who was wearing a new silk robe, a new silk dhoti and a new silk angavastram, and had a tulasi mala around his neck. And he was looking like he was very scared to come inside. But very respectfully, Kutumrao Garu brought him and made him sit right in the front, where Swami would come and take the ahuti of the yagnam. So we realized that he must be one of those real great pandits who's probably come to witness as Swami's guest, because Kutumrao Garu has brought him and escorted him there. Being students, we could see all who were coming and going because we too used to sit right in the front. Now, the Ved Saptaha Yagnam came to an end. Swami created those beautiful diamonds and those rubies which he would do and pour it into the Yagnam. And the Purnahuti was there. Swami was there to receive as a Ved Saptaha Yagya, as the Veda Purusha, to take all the Ahuti. And the Yagnam was brought to an end. Beautiful Yagnam got over. And after Dashera, as is the tradition there in Puttaparthi, people stay on for a day or so and then they start leaving. People had already started leaving, and the next day of Dashera, Swami called, and our colleges had begun a day after that. Vrindavan boys had gone off to Vrindavan. One day had already elapsed. And Swami called our warden and gave him a message and told him that go and communicate this message to my students there in the hostel. And what was the message which was given to us? It was something which was unheard of. We would invariably, whenever wanting to get closeness of Bhagawan, we would invite Swami to come to the hostel. Because we used to think that this was Swami's home too. And if Swami would come, Swami would stay in our home, eat with us, sing with us, talk to us. And at that time, Swami was at his Krishna best, as I would say. We would be like Gopikas and Gopis all surrounding him around everywhere. We could take all kind of liberties when Swami would come to a hostel. We would, decorate the whole hostel with flowers, and, even our cupboards, our altars would be decorated with beautiful flowers, and just a thought that if Swami would cross this corridor of the hostel, he should see that I am doing my sadhana very well. I have decorated my altar very well. I have kept my books so very well. I have kept my clothes so very well. These are kind of small little thoughts which used to be there, childish thoughts which used to be there in our minds, and we used to look forward for that. And invariably, we would go to Swami and pray to Swami, Swami, please come to the hostel, please come to the hostel. And 5 times we would pray, and then once or twice he would relent and come. So it used to be with great difficulty when there is not too much crowd in Puttaparthi, when there are no functions in Puttaparthi, and with great persuasion and prayers, when we would do that Swami would agree to come. So that particular morning, or if I can say that afternoon, emergency meeting of all the students was called in the dining hall, and our warden wore a very serious face, and he told, today, this morning after bhajans, Swami called me, and Swami told that this evening, tell all the senior boys to sit in the front, and they should pray that I come to the hostel. We said, what? Swami has told us to pray to him and request him to come to the hostel? So warden smilingly said, this is the first time in my life here that I am hearing Bhagawan asking the boys to make a request to ask him to come to the hostel. Andhe ko kya chahiye bhai, do aankhein. When God himself is telling that you invite him, why not? All of us, some of us senior boys planned that we will do gherao of Swami. When Swami comes here, you grab hold of his hand. I will come from the other side. All of you gather together, fall down at his feet. And normally when we do, we say Swami, Swami, Swami with all our letters in our hand. And Swami would say, hey, what is all this galata? Why this indiscipline? And then we would say, Swami, please come to the hostel. Please come to the hostel. It was a childlike play between us. And Swami would then relent and say, okay, no indiscipline in front of devotees. Go and sit down quietly. When we would sit down quietly, okay, main aata, main tumko date batata. Swami would invariably say like this. So we thought it's going to be like this. And now we've got a license. Swami has told us that you invite him to come to the hostel. So with a lot of confidence, rather overconfidence, if I can say, we all sat there. No sooner 4 o'clock happened in the afternoon. Click went the silver door down, the handle down, and out came Swami in that beautiful orange robe of his and that beautiful divine smile and looking at all of us, as if saying with the eyes, I know what you guys are up to. And then he walked towards us. And no sooner did we get onto our knees with our hands folded and started doing Swami, Swami, Swami. Hey, sit down, sit down. Don't do all this natak. मैं तो बोला तुम सबको मेरे को बुलाने को. काय को नाटक करता, बैठ जाओ. मैं कल तुम्हारा हॉस्टल में आता, सब हॉस्टल क्लीन करो, अच्छे से करो और तुम्हारे साथ खाना खाता, और मैं अपने साथ एक बहुत अच्छा हरि कथा करने वाला लेके आता. Then Swami repeated himself in Telugu for those of us who probably may not have understood. Swami said, there is this one devotee of mine who does very beautiful Burra Katha, Hari Katha, and I want him that he should come there and he will come to you. Now, with our kind of experience, we knew that in our hostel, Swami had brought once Pandit Ravi Shankar. Wow. He had come once with Sunil Gavaskar. He had come there with Shiv Kumar Sharma. So now this Harikatha guy must be out of the world. He must be the best doing Harikatha. He would probably chant out those beautiful kirtanas, and we are in for a great treat. And we all went around cleaning up the whole place, beautifying the whole place. And next day, as Swami had promised, the Shankhanad happened, and in entered Swami's beautiful car, and Swami got down with the Vedocharan. The Veda boys led Swami in the front. There was Bhangra also happening in the front, and the Veda boys behind them, and we escorted Swami to the dining hall. And as we took Swami to the dining hall, Swami asked the warden to speak a few words. After the warden spoke a few words, then Swami said, the warden, that tell them that the Harikatha person would give a presentation now. And then we saw that the same old man whom we had seen on the Dasara day with the new dhoti, new angavastram, sitting there very timidly all the while with his hands folded. And he was surprised, why did Swami get this Brahmin with him? This guy doesn't look like a singer. He doesn't look like a very great artist. But then I'm sure Swami must be knowing that this guy must be good. That's why Swami's got him. Then Swami told him very lovingly in Telugu, you please come and do your Harikatha here in front of my boys. Now this man got down with his iktara and the two kartals in his hand. And those of us who are not aware about the folk singing in Andhra Pradesh, they call it Burra Katha. In this, a guy stands up and sings the glory of Lord Vishnu in the Hari Katha. Then in between he'll stop down, relate an episode, and then after relating a few lines as a story, then he will relate again in this. Now, because it was purely in Telugu, I could not really understand all what he did that day. But I knew one thing, that he was really not one of the greatest of singers I had seen. And what was very surprising was that while singing, sometimes he would cough, sometimes he would go out of shruti, sometimes he would be singing wrongly, and we would look at Swami, that if we do anything like this in bhajan, all Swami would give us a glare. But here it is, Swami had closed his eyes with his hands waving magically into the thin air as if Tansen was sitting in front of him and singing out one song after the other, one raga after the other. Swami was thoroughly enjoying himself all through this performance. And once the performance of about half an hour, 45 minutes, I think it lasted 45 minutes, it got over, Swami blessed him profusely and made him sit down with a lot of respect, made sure that there was a pillow given to him to sit down on because he was very old and frail. Then Swami came out with his discourse. No word was spoken about this episode. Swami finished his discourse and suddenly Swami signaled for Aarti. Now this boy came there with the Aarti, and even the Aarti was sung. Now Swami was going and we were dying with wonder that who this man was. Why did Swami ask us to call him, invite him? Now, was this great singer? He wasn't really great. He was like any other roadside singer we've heard so many times. And why did Swami ask us to invite him? And as if Swami was moving out, how the divine drama plays. Swami went to the mic again. And then he said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you one very big secret." Now we knew something was coming. Swami said, "You guys must be wondering that today I asked you to invite me, though it goes to show that I was myself wanting to come." Then he said, "Actually, I was not wanting to come. I don't want to come to your hostels. What is there to come to the hostel? You want to come and have darshan? You come in the mandir. So many devotees are sitting there waiting for me, and you useless fellows, I have to come and spend time with you. You know why did I come? I came because of this devotee. You know his story, who he is?" We shook our heads. "No, Swami, we don't know anything." He said, "This poor Brahmin is a person who lives in a small village, and he ekes out a living by doing Hari Katha from one village to another village. And as the festival of Navratras came in, he thought that this is the holy period of Navratras. Let me go down and do Hari Katha from one village to the other, and I will get clothes, I will get rice, I will get some presents and everything. But as is the want in the villages these days, they want to have probably movies, they want to have dances, they want to have everything but Hari Katha." This poor man suffered a lot. For the first 3-4 days, he went village to village. Nobody entertained him. Someone gave him food. Sometimes he had to go even without food and water. So he kept on praying to me. He kept on praying to God that, "God, what is this? This is the holy period of Navratra, and I'm not even able to get a chance to sing your glory." Then when he came somewhere near Dharmavaram, so someone told him, "Why don't you go to Puttaparthi? Swami is a keen follower of musicians. If you do Hari Katha with lot of devotion, Bhagawan will give you a chance to sing." So he realized, "Oh, maybe if I go to Satya Sai Baba, I'll get a wonderful opportunity to sing." So he realized that, and that man gave him some money to go by bus. An early morning bus he took from Dharmavaram, and he landed in Puttaparthi on the 10th day of Dasara. You can imagine the rush in that day. There is hardly any place to walk. This man walked in, and opposite the Purna Chandra auditorium, where there were 2 neem trees, he went and parked his little bit of belongings which he had. He had his wife and his daughter and a son with him, and very scared, he sat down, not knowing whom to ask, what to do. People were early morning session, people were getting ready, somebody was brushing his teeth, somebody was going to go into the bathrooms to get a shower, and all those things. Suddenly he saw a old man in white kurta and white dhoti coming to him and asking his name. Are you so and so? So he got scared. He said, my God, they have a very big secret service here. I have just walked through the door and this man even knows my name. And he says, are you so and so? He got very scared and he said, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know I was not supposed to sit here. I will go wherever you tell me. He said, no, no, sir. Swami has inquired about you 3 times since morning. From 6 o'clock onwards, Swami has been telling me, go and look for you again and again. And then ultimately told me that I will find you sitting under this neem tree. So please come, sir. You are Swami's guest. Swami has told me to take you, feed you first because you have not eaten good food since last night, give you new clothes to you, your wife, your children, and then ensure that you are taken and made to sit in the front for the Ved Sapta Yagnam Ahuti. This man was surprised, flabbergasted that how does Bhagawan know that I am here? What respect he is giving me. But in his heart of hearts, he was praying that Swami, I want to sing in front of you. But that evening, Dasara evening, was meant to be given for students, wherein all my brothers who had worked out for so many days together, they were supposed to give a beautiful musical performance when Swami would sit on the jhula in the evening and the boys would belt out one beautiful bhajan after the other. So, Swami said, because it was his prayer, deep prayer in his heart, that I sing in front of Swami, I did all this drama of asking you boys to invite me, and so that I could come over and I could invite this person. And I know he may not be a very great singer as some of you are thinking. He looked at some of us, who were the bhajan boys there, and he pointed out that you must be thinking he's not a very great singer. I know, but Bhagwan wants feeling in the singing. It is the bhava which pleases God. It is not the outside, these things which please Swami. It is not how you sing. Then Swami, what he told probably, those words are etched into my heart. Swami said, when a person who's working for the government and when he retires, the government grants him pension. This old man, right from his childhood, he doesn't know any other work. He doesn't know anything else to do. He has only done Hari Katha all through his life. Now, at the end of his life, when he's about to retire, how could I leave him on the roadside without food, without clothes, without a house? So I ensured that this Navratri, he comes drawn to Bhagwan. And from now onwards, I am committing in front of all of you that this man is going to retire as a Harikatha singer, and I will ensure that he's given a house to live in, clothes to wear, and food to eat. This pension will be taken care of by God. What beautiful words, that even government gives pension to a person who retires, and for a man who has taken nothing but God's name throughout his life, how could I leave him at the end of his life? I had to draw him towards me so that I could take care of him. Dear brothers and sisters, after that I stayed for at least 3 to 4 years more, and for years together I continued to come there, and I would see this gentleman who did Hari Katha sitting there behind with the old people with that great look of satisfaction in his eyes, because he had reached his God, he had reached his milestone for whom he had prayed throughout his life. And as Bhagawan said, how could I leave him at the last time of his life when he needed me the most? That is the beauty of Swami's love. This is what we feel every time when we are near Swami. I'm again reminded of one very beautiful episode. One of my wardens who told me this did not happen really with me, but it happened with my warden, and he related to me. And he's still there at one of the wardens there in Vrindavan, who related to me this beautiful little story. He said that once we were sitting in Vrindavan, and Swami was giving us a discourse, and he said, and Swami told these boys, how many of you want that Swami should think of you? Swami repeated the question, how many of you want that Swami should think of you? My God, what would a blind man ask for when God himself is asking you, what should you do so that God thinks of you? So all of us raised our hands and we said, yes, Swami, we would want that you think of me. What should we do? Swami said, remember, when you think of me, I am thinking of you. These were the words which Swami said. And what were the words? I repeat. When you think of me, remember, I am thinking of you. Simple as that. Period. You want Bhagavan to think of you, think about your problems, think about your difficulties, think about him constantly. Swami said, the moment you start thinking of me, know that I am thinking of you. So this was one very beautiful episode which happened with them. So one day, it so happened that Swami overstayed in Puttaparthi. And some of the boys, about 10 or 15 of us Swami went off to Bangalore and about 10 or 15 of us were staying over in Puttaparthi. And we were waiting for Swami to call us through. And we were hoping that Swami would send word that those 10 or 15 boys who have not gone home, ask them to come and join me in Vrindavan. Some of us, we never used to go home for holidays also, for this reason only, because in those days Swami had stopped going to Uti, had not started going to Kodaikanal, but he would go down to Vrindavan and one time or the other call us all over and we would go there and be with Swami. So some 10 or 15 boys who were there, and one day passed, 2 days passed, 3 days passed, 4 days passed, fifth day came. Now our patience started giving way and we started feeling very low in our hearts that what is this, Swami? You are not calling us to Bangalore. We have not gone home. We were wanting to be with you. What is this, Swami? And one of our senior teachers who realized and who sensed the trouble brewing into the minds of the young boys who were praying hard for Swami, he decided to keep an impromptu satsang. We call it a Parayanam session or a study circle, wherein all of us sat down. We had our breakfast in the morning at around 8 o'clock, and we decided that today we have a satsang in the hostel, wherein we will do nothing but relate Bhagwan's episodes and incidents of our lives, how we came to Swami, how it happened. And 8 o'clock we started, we are about 15 of us, and one after the other, everyone started relating some episode or the other, how they came to Swami, how their parents were drawn towards Swami, how Swami cured their father, their mother, their wife, their daughter. All those kinds of episodes started coming in. And little did we realize that it was 1 o'clock. It was past our lunch time. None of us got up for lunch. There was not going to be any bell because only 15 of us, and we knew we were to go for lunch. The lunch time came and went. We continued talking, and at that very moment, the last speaker of the day was this warden of ours who said that Swami related the story to us that when you think of me, know I am thinking of you. So one of our doubting Thomases who was sitting there, he said, sir, what is this, sir? You are telling that Swami is thinking of us. From 5 days we are praying to Swami to call us, sir. Today, see, since morning 8 o'clock after breakfast, we are sitting here, sir. It's going to be 3 o'clock. We have not even had our lunch. Now rats are running around in my tummy, sir. Let us break for lunch. And suddenly, one of our boys came running, those who was office in charge, and he said, there is a telegram from Vrindavan. We opened up the telegram, and the telegram was from Bhagawan. And because those days telephones were difficult to come by, the messages were sent urgently by telegram, and the telegram read, ask all the 15 boys to leave immediately for Vrindavan. You think of me, and I'm thinking of you. Here you pray, and there you get the answer. All the doubting Thomases within our own hearts died a natural death that very afternoon. And all of us had tears in our eyes, tears of gratitude, wherein Bhagawan is asking us to come to Vrindavan through a telegram. And here we were sitting since morning, talking about him, remembering him, thinking of him. There was no other option but that he had to think of us. He had to imagine that we were there and invite us all. So this is how the love of Bhagawan comes there in a very natural way. We are drawing very close to our end. But before we part, I would like to share one aspect of it. You may say that, sir, you were lucky to be with Bhagwan and his physical presence. Today, Bhagwan is not just there in Puttaparthi, he's not there in his physical form. Today, he's there throughout this globe, throughout this world. So, what is expected out of all of us? How do we reach out to Swami? How do we pray to him? How do we ask him for his guidance when we are in trouble? So, my dear brothers and sisters, all I request is just think of him and him alone. And when you do that, he's there by your side, holding you by your hand. And I'm reminded of that small little drama we had done, Surdas in front of Swami, which had a dialogue wherein when Surdas falls into a ditch and Krishna comes into a well and Krishna comes and takes him out of that well. And then once he takes him out, he knows that it is nothing, nobody but Krishna. He takes his hand off and Surdas says very lovingly to Krishna, Kanhaiya, हाथ तो छुड़ा कर जा रहे हो, जिस दिन दिल से निकल के जाओ, उस दिन जानेंगे. So we have to get together and ensure that God is there in our hearts so that he never can go out. When he's there in your hearts, whether you are sleeping, whether you are eating, whether you are singing, whether you are working, whether you're doing anything, he's there with you to hold your hand, to guide you, to take you. We have understood also what we need to pray to Bhagavan. And what is the need of the hour, if you ask me today? What should the youth of today do? And in my limited understanding, as I understand, if we want this world to be a heaven, if we want that India should be the leader in this world, we have to follow Bhagavan Baba. And how do we follow him? Very simple formula I'll give you. Each one of us has to become a little bit of Sri Satya Sai Baba. Now you might question me, sir, you are asking us to become a little bit of Satya Sai Baba. So how do we do that? I mean, do we grow hair like Bhagwan? Do we wear an orange robe? Do we leave this world, come out for darshan, go down to people and who are there, help them like Bhagwan would do? How should we do it? Swami simply says, become a little bit of Satya Sai Baba. So what was it which attracted you towards Baba? It was nothing but his love and love alone. So that love which all of us have got, share that love with everybody. Any person you meet him with love. Give your love to everybody. And when you give your love to everybody, you are planting a small little sapling of love into another person's heart. This is what Bhagawan did. Bhagawan, for the 85, 86 years he was on this world, he spreaded only love, love, and love. And love has a boomerang effect. When you hit somebody with love, the same kind of love comes back to you with the same force. So all I request each one of my brothers and sisters here is that make your lives sanctified by becoming Satya Sai Baba, a little bit of him, by sharing that love of his to each person who comes into your life. Start it first with your mother, with your father, with your spouse, with your brothers, with your sisters, with your children, with your boss, with all the people around you, with your dogs, with your cats, with your servants, with your watchmen, with those people whom you don't like also. And I'm reminded, one last episode, I'll quickly go. I think I'm nearing my time, but Gopi Bhai, I'll just take this liberty and take 5 minutes more. How to cut negativity in our life. Have we faced some such occasion when we turn very negative in our lives? So how do we cut this negativity? Swami gave this formula to me once. When I say me, I mean all my students, all my boys and friends and everybody, all the students. I remember once, there was this boy from Delhi. He was my classmate. We were not the best of friends in the hostel. The reason of it was very clear. Some of these boys from Delhi who are there, they're a little outspoken kind in those days. So he was a little outspoken kind and he would bluff a lot, and we would catch his bluff and pull his leg. So he never used to like this fact that whenever I'm bluffing and I'm trying to show what a great or a good man I am, this fellow comes here and pulls my leg and exposes me in front of all the boys. So we never used to be on good terms with each other. And in fact, the fact was that every time we would cross a corridor, he would do huh, and I would do huh, and we would turn our faces. Instead of saying Sai Ram, we would turn our faces. Or I would start waving at an unimaginable friend there or an imaginary friend on a third floor, and he would also start looking at his clock whenever we would cross in the corridor, so that we don't have to greet each other. Swami must have seen that this kind of a nonsense is going on between these two for some time. So then Swami one day called some of us, about 8 or 10 of us inside a interview room for a small little session. And then Swami said, in this life, without realizing, at times we develop negativity for each other. That negativity it could be for your wife, it could be for your son, it could be for your father, it could be for your brother, it could be for your boss, it could be for your subordinates, it could be for your superiors, it could be for anyone. It could be a mother-in-law, it could be a daughter-in-law. And once this negativity comes, a lot of misunderstanding comes. So how should we cut this negativity which develops into our lives? So we said, Swami, you please tell us. And then Swami looked at me and he said, hey, you also need to cut that negativity. And he looked at me and he said, do you know how you can cut that negativity? I knew it was meant for that one person with whom I was negative about, because Swami had indicated to me. Swami said, it's a very simple way of cutting negativity out of your system. Swami said, first, do 21 times Omkaram. When you do Omkaram 21 times, your body gets purified. Your spirit is in tune with that God, with that power which is there. After that, do Jyoti meditation. In that Jyoti meditation, first bring the Jyoti onto your heart. And when you bring it to your heart, you say that, O Lord, or O Jyoti, you have come and you have seated yourself into my heart. Now let my heart not have any ill will against anyone. Then take it onto your mind and say, now let my mind be full of pure thoughts. Take it to your eyes and say, let my eyes not watch anything wrong. Let my eyes only see goodness everywhere. Into your nose, and pray that now that the Jyoti is occupying that important place in my nose, let it breathe of all good and purified air. Then take it onto your tongue, onto your mouth, and say that let this tongue only sing the glory of God. Let me always speak the truth. Then take it onto your ears and say that now that the Jyoti is in my ears, I will always hear beautiful things, good things, the story of the Lord, bhajans, and not anything in gossip. Then take it onto your hands and pray that, Lord, now that the Jyoti has come into my hands, let these hands be forever ready for serving everyone. Then take it onto your feet and then say that, Lord, let my feet take me to all good and holy places. After this is done, then imagine Swami is there in front of you. And through Swami, a whole source of energy is coming into you. That beautiful rays, those beautiful pink rays, blue rays, the rays of golden sun are coming into your heart. Imagine the sun is, Swami is filling your heart with all the beautiful feelings, with all the beautiful emotions. Then pass on those beautiful emotions to your father, to your mother, to your spouse, to your children, to your boss, to all your loved one, to your dog, to your cat, everybody. In the end, then think of those people with whom you've had some negativity. Pass on that feeling of goodness to that person. Give that power of goodness to that person and pray that, Swami, I cannot possibly see anything wrong in that person. You are in that person also. Probably I must have misunderstood. Swami, I pray that every time I look at that person, I see you in that, so that I don't think negative about that person. And transfer my love to that person. Give my love to that person. And as you do it for a few days, automatically I will take over and the negativity will be gone. And he looked at me and he said, you do it. And I said, yes, Swami, I would do it. And in my meditation, I started doing it day in and day out. So there were three messages which came to me through this episode. A, do 21 times Omkaram. B, do Jyoti meditation. And C, at the end of it, give my love to everybody. To all your loved ones also, and all those people with whom you've had misunderstandings, or you feel probably are not giving you the right kind of attitude, or probably they've had some misunderstanding with you. And as I was doing it, some 4 or 5 days happened. And after that, I was down with a severe cold and I had to stay in the hostel. And after 2 days, there was a knock in the middle of a session in the night when there was a milk time. All the boys go out. I was, because down with a very severe cold, so I was lying down on my bed. So this friend of mine, with whom I could never speak or never could see eye to eye, he came down to my bed and he inquired about my well-being. And he said, Tribhuvan Bhaiya, I was surprised that you did not come to school for 2 days. And I'm very particular about my notes. And I used to consider you like a competitor, that you are trying to get my first division. But I don't know, from the last few days, I've been feeling that since you have not been coming to the class, I've never done this. Please read these notes in the next 1 hour and give it back to me, because there is going to be a surprise test tomorrow and I need to prepare. But I thought you will not know, so you can share my notes. I was amazed that just a 4 or 5 days of meditation and transferring Swami's energy can change the heart of a hardcore person like me and him, who were probably bearing a lot of misunderstanding and negative feelings for each other. So, dear brothers and sisters, if you want to be a happy man or a woman, if you want to be a happy soul, you want to be a loving soul, just transfer Swami's energy to everyone who comes to you. Give love to everyone. यही तो एक चीज है जिसमें पैसे नहीं लगते हैं. Give your love to all, everyone around you, and you will see that you always come trump, you always come number one, you always are there. And Swamis, when you think of me, I think of you. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, Nimish Bhai and Gopi Bhai. I hope I've been able to drive point home to all my young brothers and sisters. And I promise that I look forward to be there with you again on any given topics, because this satsang gives me an ability and chance to think of Swami. And when, as Swami said, when you think of me, remember, I am thinking of you. Thank you so much. Sai Ram.
Thank you so much, sir. I guess I'm really falling short of words to actually express what bliss I've got after hearing to you. Now, I would like to open the window. If anybody has the questions, they can unmute themselves and ask. And probably after taking 1 or 2 questions, we can close the session. Brothers and sisters, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Sairam, sir.
I think. Go ahead.
Sairam, this is Nisha Joshi. My question is, when we were talking about prayer, you were telling us that Swami has said that whenever you pray only for me. Whenever you pray and you can pray only to God, you have to reach that kind of, I think, purity of mind or heart. But we are too much into this world at this age, that if we try to think only about God when we pray, sometimes it feels mechanical and it's almost like we are forcing ourselves to pray only and only for God. So how do we make ourselves reach a point where it comes naturally to us to pray only for God?
Very nice question, Nisha. I probably did not relate the story which Swami had mentioned in that very discourse when he was talking to us about what we should pray and how we should pray. I was a strapping youth of 18 years of age then, and I used to think of Vidya and Sadbuddhi. And Swami says, when you come out, probably the world will attract you with all the glamour and everything. And when you see that, you would want to own a shiny car, a beautiful bungalow, a comfortable life, and all that. But then, if you ask for that, you will only get that. But God has planned, understand one thing, nobody can come to Bhagwan unless Bhagwan wishes that person to come to him. When he has drawn you into his own aura, when he has called you near him, that means he wants to give you purity, he wants to give you much more than what you had. And in my talk, I had also mentioned that when I look back now, 30 years ago, what I had aspired, maybe touch wood if you say that, Swami has given you much more than what you had aspired. Had you not probably prayed for this, you may not have got it. Then Swami gave an example. Swami said, when the war of Mahabharata was to be fought, Duryodhana came and thought that I must go to Lord Krishna and ask him from whose side he's going to fight. Around the same time, Arjun also thought that let me go and pray to Lord Krishna that he should fight from our side. This was related by Swami in the same discourse. So in the afternoon, when they reached, they were informed. First, Duryodhana came and he was informed that Lord Krishna is sleeping. So he went inside quietly and sat near his pillow. After a few minutes, Arjun came and Arjun went and sat next to his feet. The moment afternoon app was Lord Krishna was over, Lord Krishna looked at Arjuna and said, "Oh, Parth, how come you're here?" Then Duryodhana cleared his throat and said, "Swami, I have also come here and I have come here first." So Lord Krishna made them both sit in front of him and said, "Why have you come here?" They said, "Sir, we know that this war of Mahabharata is going to be fought. From whose side will you fight? We both have come here to pray that you should come from our side and fight. So whose side will you fight?" So then Lord Krishna realized that this is going to be a difficult choice. So he said, on one side will be my total army, weapons, elephants, camels, horses, everything. And on the other side, it will be me. And that too, without any weapons. I will not fight in the war. I will only be there as an advisor. So you decide, what do you want to choose? Would you want to take my army or would you want to take me? So he gave the first choice to Duryodhan. So Duryodhan said, he thought to himself, he said, for giving advice, Dronacharya is there, Bhishma Pitama is there, Karan is there, my uncle Shakuni is there. And if Lord Krishna, being such a great warrior, which he is, if he's not going to fight a war, then why do I need him? I'd rather take his army. The moment he said, I will take your army, Arjun fell down at Lord Krishna's feet because he was scared that Duryodhan may ask for Lord Krishna. And then crying, he said, Lord, I just want you and you alone. And Lord Krishna was very happy. He said, are you sure, Arjuna, that you want me because I'm going to be without a weapon? Then why do you need me? He said, no, Lord, I know in whomsoever side you are there, victory will be that person's only. And then Swami said, you see, when Arjuna chose God, he got name, fame, power, money, kingdom, vidya, sadbuddhi, and the Gita Gyan. And in one breath, Swami said, people name their child as Arjun even today. Not because Arjun was a great warrior. There were other warriors also, great warriors. But they put their name as Arjun because he had chosen God over the world. Similarly, when you ask for God in your prayers, God knows what is your demand, what is your need. He says, be like a cat. No, don't be like a monkey. You know, have you seen a monkey? When a monkey has a newborn baby, the baby clings to the monkey totally. The monkey keeps on jumping from one tree to the other. But there is always a fear that the baby's hand might slip and it might fall down. But then what do you do with a cat's baby, the kitten? The kitten, whenever it wants to move itself, it cries.
Great speaker.
Yes, it cries, and the mother comes and picks up the baby and takes it and puts it safely. So Swami says, you be that baby. You just cry for me. And I know when your worldly mother knows when you are hungry and what is to
अरे
be done.
नीचे जो लिखा हुआ है इसमें
Won't
नहीं हुआ
the divine mother know what you require? So if we want to have full faith, trust me, just pray for him. Say that, Swami, I want you to be with me because when you are with me, I have everything. you add this addendum. You know, we are lawyers, we have an addendum in that. So you say, Swami, I pray for you and you alone. And when I pray for you, I know I have everything with me. When you say that, just watch it. Have that faith, have that conviction. He will give you everything with time. There is time for everything. But he will protect you like the eyelids do the eyes. Thank you, Dishta.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you.
So any more questions? Otherwise, we can call it a day. Annapurna?
Well done, Tribhuvan. Well done. Good.
Thank you,
Nice to
Deya.
hear.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you've been here all through.
Yes.
कौन बोल रहा है?
I think you should give up your profession now. You should now become a teacher. Yeah, Gopi?
Sairam uncle, I'm sorry. I'm facing a slight issue with my network here. Sairam. Uh, so definitely it was a great session, and I couldn't sum up it because I guess you summed it up much better in a much better way than what I can sum it up. The only thing is, sir, thank you so much for telling us the quick dial into God. I personally would now dial him quite frequently. The three omkars is now the key, and I guess any word, as I said, is just lowering the bliss which we all have experienced today after hearing to you. So during our Balvikas, we used to always hear from our Guru that you should just stay quiet when you experience something which is very blissful. So we would like to close the session with uh, Samastaloka and Omkar. Anything, uncle, you want to add? Nothing from my end because I just missed the conversation in between because I had a network challenge at my end.
May I request our All India President to give his closing remarks, and then we will end this with Shanti Mantram. Shri Tribhuvan.
No. It's. I think the closing remarks are the commitment to put into practice all the tips beautifully given by Brother Tribhuvan. And I think, as Sister mentioned, the 3 Omkar telephone number is a very important number in our lives. And the fact that you think of me and I think of you is an amazing part of life. I think that's the key. And I think it's a very well session. And I think the meditation part is a very important thing, which I would sincerely wish that all my young brothers and sisters listening to this make it an integral part of our lives. That silence, that looking inside is a very important dimension. And that is where all the key lies. The key to master the mind, the key to be at peace, the key to be connected to Bhagawan, all lies in that silence, in that meditation. And I think we should really be embarking upon that. Thank you very much, Tribhuvan. Thank you, Gopi. Thank you, all my brothers and sisters. I really enjoyed myself here. I wish I would have registered as a student for this course. And I'm going to be, as I told Tribhuvan, he should give up his legal practice now and become a teacher. I think that's important. Jai Sai Ram. Thank you.
Sai Ram, Sai Ram.
Thank you very much, sir, for those closing remarks. I just want to make an announcement. Tomorrow we have another session at 7:30 p.m. We have the 8th wonder of the world, Sai Our Sai, who is going to come online, going to share his experiences with Swami. Also online tomorrow in the dual voice. So please be sure that you are back again at 7:30 p.m. tomorrow with these speakers. I request that we'll all go for a Om Shanti. Yes, sir.
Sai Our Sai is a Balvika student. He sang before Swami when he was only 7 to 8 years old. And I happened to be on the stage with him on Dharmakshetra. And I remember Bhagawan telling me, इस लड़के को बहुत चांस दो, आगे बढ़ के बहुत बड़ा सिंगर बनेगा. I think that is the memory of Sai Our Sai way back 1980-81. That's an amazing. Looking forward to hear him tomorrow. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. We will now end with Shanti Mantram, please. Thank you so much for attending this session. Hope we continue to participate in the Satsangs and learn more from our brothers and elders. Jai Sai Ram.
शांति 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 समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु
Bhavantu.
Shanti Shanti. Jai